So, hello everyone. Welcome to Coping with Grief and Loss. Today, I'm Vuan Foster, and I'm here with Samantha from Push Empowered Pregnancy.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you. Thank you so much, Luann, for the partnership for having me on today.
Of course, of course. So I'm going to start off by saying my name is Luann. I am the founder of Life After Two Losses, and I basically founded my organization after suffering two preventable pregnancy losses. And I wanted to be a resource for women, families in the community impacted by pregnancy loss.
My name is Samantha Banerjee. I'm the executive director of Push for Empowered Pregnancy. We are a new nonprofit devoted to ending preventable stillbirth in the US. And like Luann, I am a lost mom. I came into this work because my first child, my daughter Alana, was born still 2 days before her due date in 2013 after a totally normal, healthy pregnancy. And like Luann, I believe my loss was preventable. And so we started Push to make sure that doesn't happen to others. But in the last it's coming up on 10 years for me, I've learned a lot of lessons about grief. And I've been privileged to meet, thousands of other families who've walked in our shoes and have learned much from them. So I'm here today to help impart whatever wisdom I've managed to gain. And yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah. So, what is one of the things you wish you would have known when you were going through your pregnancy, your loss?
Yeah. So for me, in 2013, people didn't talk about stillbirth. We're still getting there today, right? But I had no idea that stillbirth even still happened in this day and age, let alone that it could happen to me after a totally normal, healthy 9 months. And so we walked into the hospital in labor, expecting to finally bring home our baby girl, only to find out she no longer had a heartbeat. So my husband and I were just completely blindsided. We had no clue. And so, you know, it was really tough because we were just in shock, right? And there were a lot of decisions, right, that they ask you to make right then about, do you want to hold your baby? Do you want to do this? Do you want to take pictures? Are you going to dress them? What funeral home do you want? Are you going to bury it, cremate? And these are all things that like no parent goes into the hospital to deliver their baby prepared to answer. And so at the time, we made a lot of what in retrospect we felt were mistakes. We have a lot of regrets about not spending enough time with our daughter, not creating enough memories. And so um, I think the number one thing that I wish I had known was that number I would say there's three things. Number one, stillbirth is a possibility. And so it's important to learn about it. Because not every stillbirth is preventable, and so sometimes you and your providers do all the right things and you might still end up in this horrible situation. And so it could happen to you or somebody you love the same way it happened to me and Joanne. And um, you know, it's it's just important to know that you're not the only person, that you didn't do anything to cause it. So that's number one thing. Number two is to know that there's no actual time rush. It feels because it is an emergency situation, it feels like you have to rush through this and you just have to get through it. But I think a lot of us in the end up regretting rushing through those decisions. And so I always tell parents, I've had the privilege to meet with a few parents in between, they finding out that their baby has died and actually delivering them. And what I always tell them is there is no time pressure here. Take a deep breath, really think about what you want to do here. And number three thing, the most important thing, is keep in mind that this is all the time you're going to get with your child, and that's something that no parent who's been pregnant for months wants to think about. But you've only got a couple days, a couple hours to make those memories. And you know, it's a horrible, horrific situation, but once your baby is there and in your arms, the only thing that you're going to feel is love. You don't, death does not change love. And so your baby is going to be beautiful and you are going to feel pride and you are going to feel joy at the same time that you're feeling this heartbreak and sadness. And the more that you take the opportunity to express that love to your child, the more that you will, be able to look back on that moment as, a positive. I guess positive, not the right word, but
No, I
without
think what you,
regrets.
yes, without, I think what you said is perfect. And I too, I had multiple pregnancy losses. And I will say in my first pregnancy loss, I had a lot of regrets. I didn't know that I could hold my baby. Like I was told that, oh, put her over there, don't touch her. So I don't have any memories or pretty much any photos. I also, they told me that they were going to do an autopsy. So I didn't even know that I could get her cremated. And so I didn't make any of those decisions. So when I had my second loss, I knew better, but now it's like I feel bad because I didn't do some of the same things with my, first pregnancy, my daughter with my second pregnancy. So I think you made some excellent points to really, there's no rush. Take all the time you need to really make your memories because that will be the last time and you don't want to, live with any regrets.
Yeah, and I think also it's important to know that there's resources out there. Like you're not alone. Like it feels when this happens to you, you feel like the only
Yes.
person in the world this has ever happened to, right? And and you just don't know what to do. And so, I always, if you have just found out that this is happening to you or somebody you love, like literally just go Google,
Yes.
what to do when you find out your baby has died. Tons of resources will come up nowadays to give, checklists and, just help you think through this process and be really intentional about what you choose to do and not do. Because I mean, one of the worst parts of it is that you feel like all of the control, right, has been stripped away from you and you're just at the mercy of, you know, fate in the universe and this helpless feeling to be able to do nothing to help your child.
I
Um,
agree.
it's the
One of
worst
the
thing in
things,
the world, right? But that can give you back a sense of feeling like you can do right by your. I mean, that the times for me when I look back on my loss that I recognize in the moment, like actually I want to do something different than what I'm being, pushed to do or what I thought I wanted to do. Like for example, during my daughter's funeral, the priest almost forgot my brother wrote a beautiful eulogy and forgot to call him up. And I stood up in the middle of the church and was like, hold on, aren't we supposed to do a eulogy here? And like looking back on that, like I felt so good of being able to do that for my daughter, right? So I always tell people, you it's advocating for your child, that's a way to parent them even in death. And so you should never hesitate to do that.
so great. After you mentioned a good point about advocating for yourself, and I will say that Life After Two Losses, one of the things that we provide is we teach women, families, and communities how to better advocate for themselves. Because again, we mentioned both of our losses were preventable, so that's one aspect. We also provide grief support for those impacted by miscarriage, pregnancy, or infant loss. And one of the amazing things about our resources is they are not just for women; they are for all impacted by pregnancy loss. And something I've learned through my experiences, I was not the only one impacted. Like my mom was, like my partner was, my brother who was so excited to be an uncle. So we need a space where everyone could be able to, receive healing from that. We also, it's free. And it's easily accessible, which is also amazing, right? Because everyone should have access to good grief support, even if they, do not have insurance or can't afford it. And one of another amazing qualities about the group is we teach women how to get their life back to like a healthy place after the loss. So we don't just relive our loss experiences. We also teach them how to get their life back, which means like providing them resources and tools.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the hardest things too, like when you go through a trauma like this. And that's something again that I really didn't understand at the time. I didn't feel like I was entitled to use the word trauma. Didn't understand that was what we've been through. And it really just destroys your life. It destroys everything. And I don't think a lot of people, if you haven't been through it, really understand the depths of the decimation that again, not only the mother, but the the father or non-birthing partner, the grandparents, the aunts and uncles and cousins and siblings. How about if you have living siblings, like it really hits the entire family and the entire community, because nobody, who knows me can now go through pregnancy without having this in the back of their head, right? And so it's tough, and like you said, everybody deserves support, and that's so amazing that you've made your resources at Life After Two Losses available to everyone, because it's true, most people don't get the support and they don't feel like they deserve it. Especially when there is this sense of, stigma and shame that comes with so many losses, right? You feel like I must have done something to cause this. So, and that's just not true. I mean, that for me was the kind of like wake up call when I started talking to other moms, and I just saw how they were all saying the same things themselves that I was saying to myself about, all the things I must have done wrong. And that was when it finally clicked that if we're all making the same so-called mistakes, right, that's a system level failure. That's not the failings of any one parent. And that for me was really healing, to realize that it wasn't anything that I did to cause this, or and I think that is one of the hardest things about baby loss, is just that there is so much more tied up into it than just grief over losing your child. There's so many secondary losses. It affects all your relationships with literally everyone. It affects your entire worldview, and it can be really, really incredibly isolating. So that's the main thing I always want parents, or others going through this, to remember, is that you're not alone. Unfortunately, tens of thousands of parents have walked through this path before you, and unfortunately, the way things stand, there's going to be many, many more to come at this point. So there's no need to suffer in silence or alone. And sometimes the only people out there who really get it are the ones who've been through it too. And for me, that was the most essential part of this healing, was meeting others who've been through it, who could validate that what I was feeling was normal, that I wasn't crazy or like losing my mind, because grief, right? Grief can make you feel like you are losing your mind. And it's ugly. It's ugly sometimes. And to hear other parents saying this, they felt the same, like that was huge for me. And that for me was how I got my life back on track, was to be able to see the other parents had been through it. They survived, and this is what it was like for them, because I just had no idea what to expect. So I think that's amazing that you've provided that resources to others.
Thank you. Would you be able to share some resources that your organization provides with the
Yeah.
community?
Yeah, absolutely. So Push really focuses on the prevention aspect. So we don't do too much when it comes to bereavement, because there are so many fabulous organizations out there like Life After Two Losses, that have already created those resources. So we really serve for families in the loss community as kind of like a hub, like a resource hub to help find others. So on our website, pushpregnancy.org. /resources is under the For Families menu. We have compiled a big long list of all different kinds of resources that came directly from our Changemaker volunteers, some other families, from peers saying, this was a book that I love. This is a podcast. This is, support groups. We work really closely with Return to Zero Hope, who also does a lot of online support groups, and several others like that. And we also have sections devoted specifically for dads and non-birthing partners, for families who have experienced a termination for medical reason, for LGBTQ families. So there's a lot of specialized stuff in there, too, depending on your situation. The other thing I'll mention too is, one thing Push has done is we partnered with Mount Sinai in New York City to launch the first ever Rainbow Clinic in the United States. So you might have heard about the Rainbow Clinics in the UK, and those are specialized pregnancy after loss care. So for anyone who has experienced a prior stillbirth, miscarriage, neonatal loss, can go there, and all of the providers, from everyone from the MFM and OB and nurses down to the receptionist and the person delivering your food at the hospital, have taken this really extensive training that our team of lost parents created, to help explain this trauma and the anxiety and the grief and how it affects future pregnancies, and to help them support you through next pregnancies. And we are that training is available to any providers. So if your provider's interested in it, or your provider who's watching, if you go to pushpregnancy.org/rainbow clinic, you will find links to it there. And we're happy to give you a code to access it for free. Literally just send us an email, because our only goal is to make sure that other parents are getting better support than so many of us experienced. And so, yeah, if you're in New Jersey or in the New York metro area, you could swing by and meet the team. And if you're not, we're happy to do whatever we can to support you, help you find a provider in your area, that others on our team. We have about 100 or almost up to 150 families volunteering for PUSH around the US. And so there's a good chance that we can help you find, trusted providers in your area.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Rainbow Clinic. I can't wait to check out that link as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there any last final points that we want to make before we wrap up?
I think we should talk about if somebody you love has had a loss, how to support them, right? So I don't know, Juan, what were some of the things that people said to you that you would not recommend?
So people, yes. So some of the things that people said to me was, oh, you're young, you can have another baby, or God needed your baby, or it just wasn't your time. And those things for me were extremely hurtful. They weren't helpful. And I think for me, what I would have preferred was, I'm so sorry you experienced this. What is it that I can do to better assist you or help you? That would have been more helpful.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's okay to say, I don't know what to say.
Exactly. That's what I was going to add. Exactly. Because nobody knows what to say, right? Like even me, having been through this, I still don't know what to say. And I'm meeting new parents every day who are sadly experiencing what we've experienced. But I think, yeah, just keeping it simple. I'm so sorry. I'm here for you, and remembering their baby, right?
Yes.
That's, I think, again, something that's hard is people think once you get through the funeral, things start getting better from there on. And for many parents, it's 4 to 6 months out that things actually are the worst. And things like anniversaries, the birthday, the due date, even the change in seasons. For me, the fall, my daughter was born in October, and when the seasons start changing every fall, it really just throws me into this funk. And especially this many years later, it is just means so much to me when people remember and even just say, hey, I saw this and I was thinking of Alana today. Or, my cousin surprised me with some Christmas ornaments. I've gone on to have 2 other children since her. And now people see us and then we look like a happy family of 4, and you don't realize that there's another child missing. So like my cousin surprised me in the mail a couple years ago with 3 ornaments, one with each of my child's names on it. And like that meant so much to me to think that she just was walking around and thought of her. So there's lots of really simple things. It doesn't have to be anything grand. No words that you say are going to fix this, right? This is not a fixable thing. So it's just being there, right?
So I'll end on this point, and I think you made a very great point about, how much it means to you to remember your baby. So sorry. So we're going to end here, and we thank everyone for joining us today, and be on the lookout because tomorrow will be the last Facebook Live session. Thanks again for
having me, and it's great to see you, Luann and King.
You as well. Bye.
Take care.